Hello, dear viewers. Namaskar. Welcome to Moksha Media. You are with Moksha Hiramat. I told you something about Sarvaagatva Nirasana Sthala in the previous episode. Today, I would like to say to you something about Aahvaahana and Ashtamurty and Sarvaagatva Nirasana Sthalas. Aahvaahana is the 21st Sthala. Ashtamurty is the 21st Sthala and Sarvaagatva is the 22nd Sthala in Siddhanta Shikhamani. Of course, these sthalas have their own importance out of 101 sthalas. Then, what do these sthalas mean is a question before us. Aahvaahana Nirasana Sthala in Maheshwara Shatasthala is the 20th sthala. Generally, when we pray to God, we invoke him or her. But when we concentrate on Ishtalinga, we do not invoke God or any other force, because it is already invoked in Ishtalinga. That is, when Guru gives Ishtalinga to Bhakta, at that time he has already invoked Shiva into Ishtalinga. Therefore, the question of invoking Shiva at the time of Ishtalinga is not arisen, because Guru has already done it. That is why invoking Shiva into Ishtalinga at the time of concentration should be given up. So it should not be attached to that invocation. At that time, invocation is not needed. That is why it is told Aahvaahana Nirasana Sthala. After this sthala, one goes to the next sthala. That sthala is Ashtamurty sthala. Of course, God has created these 8 forms. They are air, fire, sky, earth, sky and water. And then sun, moon and Atman. I repeat it once again. Shiva has created 8 forms. They are air, earth, fire, water, sky, sun, moon and Atman. Of course, we talk of Panchabhutas. and other three forms. Anyhow, that Maheshwara do not worship the forms of Shiva, but he should worship Shiva himself. What we do, we worship the controlled but not the controller. We should worship the controller. Who is the controller? Of course, Atman controls other 7 forms, but Atman itself is controlled by a Shiva. So ultimately Shiva is the controller. What happens nowadays, or what happens on this earth? We worship the gifts of Shiva but not Shiva. So instead of worshipping the gifts of Shiva, the forms of Shiva, we have to worship Shiva himself. So that is why we should detach from these 8 forms created by Shiva. If you do not detach from these 8 forms, automatically you cannot worship Shiva properly. So that is why it is said Maheshwara should detach himself, or Maheshwara should detach himself or herself or oneself from these 8 forms created by Shiva. So this is called Ashtamurty Nirasana Sthala. Then another one, Sarvaagatva Nirasana Sthala. Sarvaagatva means presence of Shiva everywhere. We say Shiva is omnipresent. He is everywhere. Of course, while worshipping, while concentrating and praying to Ishtalinga, keeping it on the palm of the left hand and concentrating our eyes and mind on Ishtalinga, we should not feel the presence of God or Shiva everywhere. If you feel the presence of Shiva everywhere, you cannot concentrate your mind on Ishtalinga. So, while concentrating on Ishtalinga, you should think that Shiva is there in Ishtalinga. Shiva is present in Ishtalinga. He is nowhere present, but he is present in Ishtalinga, kept on palm of the left hand while worshipping it, while concentrating on it. So Maheshwara should feel that Shiva is present in Ishtalinga but not in any other places. So if he feels, then only he can concentrate on Ishtalinga properly, otherwise one cannot concentrate on it. Concentration on Ishtalinga is very important. That is why a Maheshwara should not feel the presence of Shiva everywhere. So he should give up the Sarvaagatva, the presence of God everywhere. So it is called Sarvaagatva Nirasana Sthala. So like this, in these sthalas, one has to give up these invocation, the form of eight forms created by Shiva, and the presence of Shiva everywhere at this stage. If you go to next stage, the things would have been different. So, being a Maheshwara, being a Bhakta and Maheshwara, one should climb steps one by one. An ordinary one cannot climb all the steps at a time. He can climb the steps one by one. He can go to the steps from one to the other. So the phase is very important. The steps are very important. So if he attains one phase, he can go to, if one attains one phase, one should go to the next phase, that is the Sthala. So like this, Maheshwara should climb up from one Sthala to another Sthala. One should attain one Sthala and then only one could go to the next Sthala. That is the concept. This is what said in Siddhanta Shikamani. Of course, Siddhanta Shikamani is the Sanskrit version of Veerashaivism, whereas Shunya Sampadane is Kannada version of Veerashaivism in a different form, in a different things. But anyhow, there is no difference regarding the contents of these books, contents of these treatises, whether it is Siddhanta Shikamani or Shunya Sampadane, which is brought out in about 14th or 15th century, I think. So, anyhow, we should not create any controversy regarding these things. But there are some persons who create controversies in order to gain their own stand, in order to reap the profit out of the other things. That is common. But we should be very careful of these things. We should think over the things and we should practice them properly under the guidance of Guru. That is what we come to know in these sthalas. Subscribe. See you in the next episode. Namaskar.